I'm Peggy Walker, and I am the STEAM and Junior Activities Coordinator for the Astronomical League. And what I've done personally is I really got involved with astronomy outreach, and I found myself involved with a wonderful group of people through the Astronomers Without Borders, which got me involved with the People with Disabilities Working Group. And I met a lot of wonderful people that are doing outreach to include everybody, the accessibility of astronomy outreach. And so I kind of went down a certain path here. And as a right brain, very creative person into crafts, art, things of that nature, I wanted to have people have the encounter that I have when I look at a book and I see these beautiful colors and I see things. How can I convey that to somebody who is visually impaired or totally blind? And how do I create a picture and create words that give them an imagination to be able to put something together in their mind's eye of what it is I get to see? And so I'm going to show you what I did and how I first got started. I started playing around with a lot of crafts and things and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take you to a comet structure. And you don't have to do it exactly the way I did it, but this was one of the attempts I made. So this might just get you your creative juices going to consider, putting together tactile things, because not everybody has a 3D printer. And believe it or not, some of the blind people I've talked to have said that, that doesn't always convey things because you got dashes and dots and things of that nature. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do, but some people who would like to have a little bit more detail, they found that what I was offering them was a little bit more stimulating to them. So let's take a look at my comet structure, okay? So down here, what I have is the structure of a comet, and it doesn't have any, this particular thing could be found on any web page, it's just a little graphic. And so I converted the graphic into a tactile thing. So as you can see here, the best thing to do is get some chipboard. And one of the things I found interesting was my husband was getting these at work with some of the shipments, and he brought them home. So a lot of this tactile stuff has been recycled things. So it's really awesome. So this chipboard will it'd be great because as you put glue on it, it doesn't bend. It has a tendency to actually last a lot longer than just thinner mount board. This is a lot thicker. So I would consider some of this. You can get that on any, Amazon or thing like that. The one thing to consider when putting a tactile thing together, that I was told that there's always a circle of some sort or some sort of like a hole or a niche where when you hand these out, they would feel where that is to know that that's the right corner. So when they start reading or feeling something, they have it in the right orientation. So you'll need a certain dot or circle I used foam core here. The one thing I used for this whole thing is this bomb diggity glue from Beacon. It glues on everything. It's clear. It dries quickly. Walmart has it. Hobby Lobby has it. Michael's has it. So this would be the glue of choice for doing any of these type of projects. So what I chose here was after I sketched this on this chipboard, I used a kind of a thicker glitter. And so you want to consider getting a thing of that. This is your ion tail. And then they have those bags of those really small beads. And so here again, I used that for this particular hydrogen envelope. And then I used actual gravel for the aquarium. And so, like I said, I used that really great glue, and everything pretty much sticks great. I used about a 4 to 5 inch piece of nylon cording. And of course, what I do is I take thread and you put tape there, but if you cut it, I just wrap thread around it several times over, stitch through it so that everything doesn't fray. So your actual tactile thing here won't be all coming apart at the seams, so to speak. So that's what I did there. And then I have a big pearl. And I also got this really great chain here. So I got about 18 inches of this chain. And this is a bead or like a marble or something of that nature. So one of the things that you want to definitely convey when you're talking about this is the distinct tails that the comet has and the actual For example, the nucleus obviously is not on the outside of the comet, but it is something that is covered up with ices. So this is the actual nucleus. This would be your coma when it starts to sublime and emit all the gases. Then I go to the ion tail here. And of course, we know that these are really heavily gas. It's the water molecules and water ices that have been separated as it gets closer to the sun. So this one has more of your oxidized, ionized particles. This really becomes all of your hydrogen here, your atoms there. And so they kind of changing the texture to this was something that when we gave it a beta test with the Tulsa Council for the Blind, they really felt that they could understand what I was conveying through them here. And then, of course, with the dust tail, which is all the chunks that fall off of the comet, and then letting them know that comets follow orbital paths. So I took this large chain. I had to use a wire cutter to cut it. And then, of course, do your study, do your research on things, and make sure you're conveying the right information. We don't always see in images, we don't necessarily see the hydrogen envelope because they need, that's usually more of an ultraviolet. We can see that as we get closer and image it. But from the Earth, we're just seeing these gorgeous white streams or greenish blue streams from where we are. So, but this is one of my first attempts at putting something together for a visually impaired person. So then the other thing that I would recommend is to put together a narrative that when you are sitting with a person, that if some people do not do Braille. For example, I found out that as people age or of a certain eye diseases or things like with diabetes or, things like that, cataracts, some of them have not learned Braille. So if you do something with large print, what's amazing is some of them still have vision enough to be able to see large print. And as well as, you maybe in some cases reading it to them would be something. So I have this short little narrative. And of course, it can open up a great dialogue with somebody one-on-one. But then I found a really great person from the Oklahoma City Library for the Blind. And the woman took this narrative that I typed up here that I was reading to people, and she gave me a page of this information. And the thing that's great about it is that it is on the back side as well. So you can flip right over. And of course, we have it's just amazing. It's beautiful stuff, but I just think it's so phenomenal. But they gave this to me. So this is an option for you for those that are actually visually impaired to the degree that they have little or no sight at all. So what I've done is I got these bags. They're larger bags. You can find them on the web page. And I literally just take everything, and I'll take this, I fold this in there, take my narrative. I put everything together in one of these big bags. So when I travel, if I go in to do an outreach program, I can just grab all the bags, all the little things that I need, and have it all together. Plus, if it's shedding any of the dust tails or any of the ionized cells or things are popping off, they're not all over your floor of your car. They're in a bag. So you can pretty much contain your comet subliming before your eyes. But this was just one of my first attempts, and I did run it through the Council for the Blind here in Tulsa. Got great feedback on it. And so I really just want to encourage you. You don't have to use the exact materials I use, but just consider doing something different and having something for maybe the aging population in your club, and maybe for the people in the families that have vision issues, that then we can keep astronomy really diverse enough and accessible for everybody, and everybody can have an encounter when you do an outreach program. So anyway, so that was one of my first attempts on that. So I'm just going to encourage you to look into doing the thing with comets. I will have another one on Comet Hale-Bopp, so stay tuned for that one. And that one gives you a little bit different dimensions on things. So use images. I use Hubble images, Chandra images, SOHO, things of that nature to be inspired to do this. And then I think all the different cool beads and fabrics and things that I have that would best convey what I would like to present to people is what I see through these great images. So stay tuned, but just jump into doing something tactile, do something visually. And the other thing that's interesting is if you're using that kind of glue, it does create kind of like a film on it. So now with wiping things down, you pretty much can still keep the integrity of your tactile resources by cleaning them up or wiping them down after use. So I just want to thank you for tuning in and just jump into the tactile and gluing part of the outreach of astronomy. Thank you so much. So I went back through and I actually have footage of the Tulsa Council for the Blind members actually feeling and reading this panel. So I thought, well, maybe we should add that to the end of the clip on this. So if you stay tuned, it will be right after this, and you can see the response that they had to this tactile structure of the comet. Thanks.
Cool. And you know, a comet's essentially, you know, a rock with ice on it. And so that's just the dust and the steam and the water left over as it's passing through space. And the sun reflects off of it. That's what we get to see.
Ah, so this would be the rock.
Yeah, that's the actual comet. Yeah. Correct.
Cool.
And that's one of the tails. That's called the ion. The first one there on your left is called the ion tail. Then that one's the hydrogen envelope. And then, like I said, that's the orbit that the comet's passing.
Okay. Oh, and
then the next one is the dust cloud.
Oh, that's why it's bigger.
Yeah.
Cool. That is awesome. That is so cool.
Whole different thing, huh?
That is awesome.